The Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot drama continues both behind the scenes and in the public eye, revolving around the Snow White press tour, the marketing campaign, and everything to do with the promotional aspects of this movie, and just how desperate the Disney executives, including Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, are really getting at this point to just get past this movie, get it all done and over with, and just put it in the rearview mirror and call it quits to focus on future films and television programs. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So we already know that Rachel Zegler has a lot of issues, and when I say a lot of issues, we're talking about a ton of problems with Gal Gadot, and a lot of it has to do with the fact of not just everything that happened both in the political landscape, but also with the creative end of Snow White, but also a lot of it has to do with the press tour. Now, what's interesting about this is that we already know that Rachel Zegler is creating a lot more problems than Disney needs at this point, especially given the fact that they are facing this to be by far one of their worst box office disasters to date, right on par with Dumbo's opening. It's very possible at that point. But what's interesting about this further has a lot more to do with Rachel Zegler and exactly what's going on with not just herself and Gal Gadot, but also how Disney is really trying to tame the entire situation with Rachel Zegler, and how she's really just dragging down Snow White further down than it has to be at this point. Let's get into this. Now, what's interesting about this, yet again, is that we already know that Rachel Zegler will never stop. I mean, she is just doubling down on her views, she's doubling down on her overall agenda, and going on that damage control train, and this is exactly why this movie is just not performing well, is that for multiple times at this point, she keeps saying it's an educational piece and blah 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 blah. But moving on, with the Walt Disney Company already dialing back on their marketing campaign and embracing the financial collapse surrounding Snow White, one massive development that is now active involves more to do with the grudge between both Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, and how it's worse than we all thought. A shocking update to this drama is that the Walt Disney Company is furious with Rachel Zegler after she refused to appear at the Walk of Fame for Gal Gadot. It turns out this had a lot to do with the fact that Gal would be taking questions and answering them in regards to her view on politics and her support with Israel. Now, Zegler reportedly absolutely refused to attend Gal's Walk of Fame after she was pressured to do so, not just by her agent and manager, but also from the Disney executives and producers that were warning her ahead of time that by not attending, it would only make things worse for her image and representing Disney. Not so shockingly, after Rachel never attended Gal's Walk of Fame, there was a moment where they actually did indeed have an argumentative conversation just recently behind the scenes when doing photo shoots for Snow White. Rachel was reportedly acting very difficult to work with, but she was not happy with Gal's posture in comparison to hers in some of those photo shoots, and how the photos were being shot by the Snow White press tour. Now, there was even a moment where Zegler walked off the set even when doing these photo shoots with Gal for new upcoming international posters for Snow White. It got so intense to the point that some of these photo shoots were cancelled outright due to both Zegler and Gal showing such bad energy on set with each other. Most of it had, of course, coming from Rachel Zegler after snubbing Gal's Walk of Fame event. Rachel reportedly was deeply offended over Gal bringing up and answering questions about Israel during her Walk of Fame event, to the point that her grudge between, of course, not just herself and Gal, but also with Disney, are now in a worse state than ever before, to the point that Disney is already canceling other photo shoot sessions, which in turn is losing them even more money for planned marketing events for Snow White. Now, to make matters worse for Zegler's sake, is that this is all beginning to be picked up by other studios, and how so many studios within Hollywood are absolutely repulsed by Rachel Zegler and her behavior. Both Rachel and Gal did have a serious argument where Gal even called out Rachel for contributing to a failing press tour and why it's just not working out. Now, guys, before I move on about this, look, we know that Rachel Zegler, it was fully expected that she would act this way toward Gal Gadot, and how she got that Walk of Fame, and how Rachel just snubbed Gal outright. She wanted nothing to do with her, and that was all to be expected. It's not so shocking in that light, but what is shocking to me is the fact that she really went out of her way to really actually just move away from the photo shoots, to create such trouble for the photo shoot sessions for these upcoming international posters for Snow White and for the press tour as well. it just really makes you wonder how narcissistic and self-absorbed Rachel Zegler truly is, to the point that you have to create more problems. Even though you're in a serious damaged state at this point for Snow White, I think it's come to a point where even Rachel and Gal, they don't care anymore. You know, at this point they know it's damaged goods, this movie, and they just want to get it wrapped up. Now, look, at the end of the day, we already know that Rachel and Gal, they're never going to show support for each other. They both have their issues with each other for obvious reasons, both politically and creatively. There's a lot of issues going on there. We already know that Gal has a lot of problems with Rachel because of what was actually done behind the scenes on set when filming this movie. We already talked about how Rachel was very difficult to work with as well when it came to the number of takes that it took to actually complete some of those scenes, which could very well answer as to why this movie seems very botched and very out of place, and the pacing is just way off. The editing team and everyone else involved in this movie, they tried to find a way to really kind of balance the movie, to really kind of make it flow better, so to speak, after 3 rounds of reshoots and re-editing took place over and over again. But I digress. Moving onwards here, Rachel also blamed Gal for making it difficult to work with her, even though in reality it was all on Rachel. Now, Disney executives are already providing extra PR tips for Snow White for Rachel Zegler, and how Rachel repeatedly does not want to listen to their advice at all, with the photo shoots now cancelled altogether after Zegler's personal issues with Gal blew up, and her Walk of Fame address, and how that in turn offended Gal Gadot. Disney executives are now practically giving up on attempting to fix the entire situation, since it's just too out of control at this point. And again, I mean, we all know that Rachel is going to continue to create more problems than good for Snow White 25. I mean, you can expect more behavior moments like this, of course, later down the road. We already know that the press tour, it's going to be a very, negative one at that, because it's like prying teeth at this point, right? We already know that there's nothing really that Disney can do to salvage this movie. There's nothing that they can really do to save it. You know, between the bad press, the drama between both Rachel and Gal, the fact that all agendas aside, this is just a bad movie, to the point that even Disney fans are calling it out and saying how terrible it is. That's exactly why seats are not selling on sites like Fandango, for example. I'm hearing from so many people from across the United States, from around the entire world, that this movie is just not selling anywhere near as close to The Little Mermaid did in the early days when it first dropped in theaters. So that's a real big telltale sign there as well. But I would like to hear what everyone has to say about the whole Rachel and Gal situation, the whole Walk of Fame scenario where you had Rachel snubbing Gal Gadot, which I think is just very petty at this point. It just goes to show you how narcissistic and how self-absorbed Rachel really is, and how far she's willing to go to just avoid Gal Gadot, and, hence that's going to repeat on Rachel Zegler as well, because Gal wants nothing to do with her as well. I would like to hear what everyone has to say about all of this below in the comments, anything ranging from the Snow White press tour, to the box office results, to the reviews out there. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.